Oh, good afternoon for you. Still good morning for me. I trust that everything's going well.
Everything is where it should be. Episode 14, and we are season 3.
Yes. And you know how we've always told our listeners that we thought that we would open up and do a very, very positive fireside chat instead of looking at all the doom and gloom. And so I think today is the day. So today we're going to talk about all the positive things that have gone on in the last week.
Okay, well, we'll see you then.
Yeah, that's it. We're done.
That show lasted a whole minute and a half.
My goodness, that's about 50 seconds more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, that included the intro.
Oh, okay.
Right.
There we go.
Okay,
Right.
so we'll really have to go then to plan B.
Okay.
Okay.
And plan B, yes, as it normally is we didn't think it could get any worse, but everybody's taking us as a challenge and it just seems to be growing exponentially.
Well, we have usually a 30-minute program, but today we decided to do the lexicon. 25 things that are going wrong in Canada and the United States. This is our list from 1 to 25 of what we see as, gee, we need to fix this.
Well, yeah, and again, going back to previous episodes, it seems to me that the government has broken all of these, but once again, have not really come up with any great plans or great insights, perhaps, to try and get this back on track. No. Especially item number one.
Item number one.
Borders and illegal immigration.
Correct.
Wow.
That's
almost a whole show in itself.
That would be a whole show in itself. How in the heck did we get here? We have literally millions of people in both countries who are the newcomers, as they like to say now, who have no jobs, who have no homes, who have no prospects. Thank you very much. And that still leaves the host community trying to figure out, what do we do with all these folks who have no jobs, who have no prospects, and who have no homes?
Mm-hmm. And then that leads quite into point number 2.
Right.
Crime, urban decay.
Yes, crime and urban decay. We see this going on where CVS stores and liquor stores get emptied out by people who don't care what happens, because nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And you have homeless all over the place in the urban centers, the major urban centers of North America: New York, Toronto, Vancouver, LA. The list goes on. So that's number 2. Then you can compound that with number 3.
True. Drug addiction and the fentanyl problems.
That's right. Seems to me that those are pretty closely linked, but actually separate problems, because drug addiction is a long festering problem, which in your neck of the woods, they try to fix by making it okay. And now have discovered that, drug use is not okay. And the decriminalization of it didn't work. Neither did the impact on reducing fentanyl use. So,
yes, and they're actually finding out that the safe supply drugs are ending up on the market.
Yes, surprise, surprise.
Depending on which side of the fence you're on, yeah.
Yeah. And then there, of course, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's one of those things when you get politicians coming up and it leads right into point 4.
Point 4 of our lexicon: elections and our trust in them. Now, this is probably more an issue in the United States than in Canada, because we're so backward here. We still use paper ballots. We put a little X in a box, and a bunch of people in the riding or the district in the US would count them out. And by 11 o'clock, generally, we get to know what's going on. But the American election system is so fundamentally technical and fraught with technical problems that sometimes it could take a week or 2 before you find out with all this electronic wizardry, who won the election. And so consequently, there's a lack of trust, in that.
That's right.
But we're not here to take it apart more than a minute at a time, because we only have 30 minutes.
That's right. Yes. And I guess that kind of leads right into point number 5, failing educational standards. And that, well, it may not seem very related to voter fraud and issues. It is. It's all part and parcel of what are we going to teach in the schools that the younger generation need to know. I've mentioned before that my granddaughter is learning cursive because apparently that's an important thing to bring back. Why aren't we looking at things like how do you balance a checkbook? How do you put sentences together?
Yep.
How do you know the difference between right and wrong? I mean, there's a lot of fundamental things that are going on in the education system that are just not being addressed.
Well, they're not
Can't.
even following. They were depressed in order to meet, the quotas that people wanted to meet in social engineering programs, right? There was a bright light, though, this week. Cornell University in the US has brought back SATs. So, it's all things shall pass.
Well, and that's true. And sometimes it just takes a little bit longer than we would like.
Well, if you have people who are coming out of these schools, engineering or medical or what have you, you have problems like in engineering, doors falling off airplanes. People dying on operating tables because the fellow wasn't quite up to the task, etc. But I digress. On to number 6.
Yeah, well, that's true. And part of that education system, election systems, drug addictions, crime, it all goes into a lack of faith in the justice systems because the justice systems are looking at being political.
That's right.
But
Justice systems in both countries have gone political,
Mhm.
and in fact don't even follow their own prescriptions of the law. We had, as you know, the Emergency Act was found to be unconstitutional, but they did it anyway.
Because what are they going to do to us?
Exactly. That's in Canada. In the US, the lawfare that's going on between the parties, and really they're both just as guilty. Everybody's making money who's involved with the legal system. Lawyers are making money and everybody else is getting PO'd with how the justice system actually functions.
Well, we had a case out here in Victoria not too long ago where there was an individual arrested for carjacking, was out on the street, and within 3 days had been arrested twice more for carjacking. And you would think, what's the old adage? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Something like that, anyway.
Yeah, but he was
You would
going for the
think that after-
trifecta. He wanted
Well,
to
yeah.
be arrested at least 3 times.
Well, and even now, I would say that it's one of those things that after the 3rd time, they're still probably not going to keep him in jail. So, is that the justice system? Is that the politicization of the justice? I don't know what it is.
Well,
but
it does link up. It does link up. No question.
Yeah.
Which brings us, of course, to number 7 of our lexicon of things that are screwing up Canada and the US is property rights, private property rights. We see that with people suddenly move into your house that's empty and you have squatters in there, you can't get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is absurd.
Well, it is. And apparently we had a member of parliament who thought that we were stupid to think that we had property rights and we could own our own home.
That's right. This is, yeah. But that's a deep in the weeds kind of item, which we could do a whole show on as well, which is we'd have to have a couple of sort of technical experts on the law that would help us with that one. But clearly, property rights now is up for grabs because in the new globalist approach to things, you don't have property rights, or you won't have them as you once knew them to be.
Yeah, well, there you go, globalism.
Yeah, but
And
need not worry.
well, that's next point, right?
That's right.
Globalism and the unelected elite.
Correct. And now that they are wanting us to follow the instructions of all the W's, the WEF, the WHO, many other W's, you know, all these elitist numbskulls in Europe. It's funny how all these guys are in, you know, in the mountains in Europe. You know, like they all seem to coalesce in Switzerland in a cozy little chalet in the winter. We have some discussions on how the rest of the world needs to eat bugs and give up their rights to the new world order, which is no longer, it's kind of an old world order, which is the Swiss gnomes deciding what we're going to do.
Well, there's that, and coupled with the unelected elite is the other bugbear of me is the religion that's starting to poke its nose into politics. And I don't have a problem with that
Which
in one
religion? The
sense.
cult?
Anyone, it doesn't
Okay.
really matter, right? Why do you have um, the right Reverend so and so, who's also the right honorable member for Riding X?
Uh-huh.
You know, if you want to be involved in the politics, then let's take this to the proper next step and say that the churches are no longer tax exempt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
If you want to have a separation of church and state, you better keep them separated. You know,
very much
try it.
so.
Exactly. Can't have one in the other
Mhm.
together. Okay, so that's another long, lengthy legal battle we'd have to challenge.
Discuss.
But you forgot inflation and debt,
True.
and that we could talk about for hours. Obviously, there's no inflation because in our Orwellian times, the leadership says, "Hey, inflation's down. Don't worry about the fact that we owe more than we actually make. Not a problem. That's
Yeah.
okay. We'll just tax the shit out of you next time and we'll pay for it for the next 2 or 3 generations."
Well, that's right. And, you know, you sit back and it's starting to show here where I think we have now in the province of British Columbia just gone through our third consecutive bond downgrading.
Oh, that's
We are no
good.
longer triple A. We're down a couple of points from that. So,
Don't worry about it. We'll just print some more money. You know,
yeah. And again, forgetting about there's only really one taxpayer.
you mean you have more than one wallet?
Well, I might have several, but they're all empty.
Yeah, well, that's okay because your successors aren't going to be around to worry about it because declining birth rates is number 10 on our hit parade. You know,
Yes.
so we get rid of all the folks that are here now. Okay. In Canada, we have a special program for that. All you old folks, you want to pull the pin, we got a thing called MAID. Okay, so declining birth rate at the front end and old guys at the back end, clean them out.
And
And
we're left with the middle.
that's right, or is poor and homeless. But you
Mhm.
can fix that by bringing in a couple of million people from somewhere else who are already poor and homeless.
And they're used to it, so they won't argue.
Exactly. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Which
And
is
what?
true, but
Yeah,
we probably going into the next lexicon, we'll have to have another bureaucracy to manage that.
exactly. Because a growing bureaucracy can solve all these problems in the background. If you have more government, you have better societies. The bigger the government, the better the society.
And we're finding that here in Canada too, where we now have the federal government coming directly to cities to say, don't worry about what your province leaders are saying. We'll give you money.
And we'll set up a shop that'll look after it,
Mhm.
who will get fabulous salaries that are worthless money, by the way, but they'll have fabulous salaries.
And you best be remembering that if you vote us out, the new government may not see quite the same thing, so they won't be getting that money.
Well, not only that, but if you vote us out, it don't matter because all our pals in the deep state or down in the bog, or Disney on the Rideau, as it would be in Ottawa, all those people, they're still going to do what they've been doing for the last 30 years. It's a growth industry, right? Government is a growth industry. And it doesn't matter who takes over, because unless you do some, in agriculture, it's called what, pruning and rooting, taking out all the dead branches or what have you. You have to do that. That's like about 50% of the bureaucrats that have to be going, off you go. But that's only at the federal level. You hadn't even talked about the state or provincial level, which is growing like topsy. And then you have all the municipalities and the towns and cities that have, they create jobs out of thin air. Okay. And
Very
once
true.
again, going back to your wallet.
I don't know what the answer is going to be there. So we get, let that just go to answering the theme. But the where does it end? Well, I think part of that's going to go into point 12. Toxic food supply and the GMOs. If you feed these people stuff, it's going to, one of two things, it's going to kill them, or it's going to make them want to drink more of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, well, that Kool-Aid is pretty good, because you just wash down those bugs and all that other stuff they want us to eat from those guys in item number 9, the globalists. You will eat bugs because it's good protein.
Wow.
Okay. And that's not toxic,
over
apparently.
that because I hadn't really thought about bugs, and I know we're getting ready for brunch, so
Oh, okay. That's right. And then lucky 13 on our list of, this is not good. It's the fallout from the pandemic and the whole vaccine thing. We now have people who won't take measles shots because they're afraid of them. We have all sorts of liability issues from the shots. That some of them are proven to be really not very useful. In fact, the side effects are worse. The cure is worse than the disease. So we could do all kinds of stuff there, but we have to be careful, because one of our platforms doesn't like us to talk about that particular issue. So if you're watching this on Rumble, you get the full package. You might find it by the time you get to here on YouTube, suddenly it stops. So that tells you everything you need to know about item number 13.
And we can just kind of jump over top of that next point for a second, because it still relates to the issues of big pharma overprescribing. I know your head's been kind of sore, and so take a pill for that. Oh, gee, you lost a digit through to your saw cutting off your finger. We got a pill for that. It's goes way back too to the like 0.3. We've got a lot of people who are hooked on fentanyl and stuff because what was that drug that was supposed to not be addictive, and my God, it was.
Yes. Well, the pharmaceutical industry has always been happy to give doctors samples, which they give to you happily over and over again, and then you get hooked on it. And a lot of drug addiction has nothing to do with illegal drugs. It has to do with people who are continually being prescribed drugs by their GP or what have you, simply because, frankly, it's good business, because the pharmaceutical company gives you money for selling dope through the prescriptions.
Well, that too, and the fact that you sit back and you think you build a tolerance to these things, so you have to get something a bit stronger, and then a bit stronger, and then a bit stronger, and then pretty soon we're walking around like zombies because we don't know any better.
And then you have the issue that no one even thought about 2 years ago. What the heck you're talking about, which is trans issues, which we won't even get into here, because that is at the moment, we don't have enough time to talk about that one. Okay. Other than the fact that women should not have to compete with men in sports. End of story from my perspective.
Well, there's a lot of side issues on that one as well.
Yeah, but basically that's probably a short-lived one in my opinion. In the end, is a societal question. You know, historians will look back at this in 20 or 30 years and say things like, what the hell were they thinking about? But you know, this particular broadcast will still be there, will be gone, but in the memory banks of AI, they'll come back and say, hey, Bob and Tom talked about that. What the hell were they talking about?
Yeah, well, and, you know, they won't be wrong.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
You know, exactly.
It's
Then
also into point number 16. Yeah, there we have it. State interference in family.
always, this is,
Not just
they're
family.
into everything. Yes.
My gosh, as we're finding out here, where, well, as we said before, the provincial governments are being bypassed because we have a federal government that wants to look like they're doing something, so they're going right down to the city levels to try and buy us back with their own money.
And
As that sounds.
well, that goes back to a previous one of our previous episodes where we proved how inflato worked. Yeah. And how many people bought the inflato? Apparently, we didn't convince a lot of people to buy the inflato gizmo any more than they buy it from the government.
Well, and you know, I guess that's maybe we just didn't have the right marketing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I guess they are better at marketing. I'll give you back more than you give me. Than we you know.
Well, and as we found out on that state interference, we have the thing called the carbon tax. Even though Canada only has less than 1% of the global problem, we have been overtaxed to the point where I had thought initially in the province of British Columbia, we were making $3 billion. Well, the government was making 3 billion, that's B billion a year from the carbon tax. Apparently now they're looking at this a little more significantly, and it is triple that.
No kidding. Inflato.
Inflato.
Oh.
And although this is supposed to be all revenue neutral, they're only giving back 4.5% in rebates.
Where's the rest of the dough go? Oh, wait a minute. It must be doing good things because your rating with Fitch and other places gone down for the third time.
We can only hope that people are going to start to wake up and realize that there's one taxpayer called me, and eventually, it doesn't matter how many wallets you've got, they're all going to be there. So yeah, I don't know how long that's going to take, and when are we going to stand up and realize that you can't just invent a new tax? And again, you know, if it was $3 billion a year, and we've had this going now for apparently 16 years, how much has the greenhouse gases gone down? And I don't think it's very much. And Canada still might be at 0.3% of the global problem. So
the only thing the carbon tax does is give me gas every time I read about it or hear about it.
We are $2.12 a liter.
Aren't you lucky? You are contributing to the safety of the world. Good for you. You know, you guys are so wealthy out there on the left coast. It's amazing.
So for our American viewers, and I've never really been good at math, but you multiply that by 3.78, and that will get you what we are paying for a US gallon of gas.
That's all right. You're not going to get too comfortable for too long because that same thing is happening south of the border because of things like number 17, the DEA, which is not a department of the government.
And what may it be, perchance?
Well, diversity. Well, I forget what does E stand for. Egregious nonsense, and I is inclusion. Which basically means it's a new kind of fascism that we will tell you what you have to do, who you have to like, and all those things. Anyway, the whole DA thing is so dumb. We're just going to go right to number 18. which is because we have 17, we have number 18, which is decline and destruction of societal norms, because we have gone completely cuckoo on this in North America. We started off with, let's get rid of statues. And after we got rid of statues, let's pretend that black is white and white is black, and then go back. I mean, it's just everything that were the pillars of traditional society that drew people to this part of the world from other parts of the world that were completely corrupt and dysfunctional. We decided we should become corrupt and dysfunctional, because that will make the people coming from the dysfunctional corrupt parts of the world feel more welcome. Because there's no other, I can't figure out any other kind of excuse for burning down your house, literally. Because the other guy's house burned down somewhere else in the world. So let's burn down ours, and when they get here, it'll be just like where they came from.
And not to try and pick on the politicians unfairly, but I don't think that any of these new politicians are doing anything that their previous politicians didn't do. But the fact is that it's become so commonplace and so in your face that they don't see it as being wrong.
Well, if you're a crackpot and a dimwit and you're a politician, answer is there.
True. Very, very true. Which now brings us, because of money issues and greed and all that kind of stuff, to point number 19.
Yeah, which should be actually point number 2 to some extent, but go ahead.
That's true. Endless wars.
Endless wars.
Is benefiting from this, because it certainly isn't me. It certainly isn't any of the poor people in the Ukraine or the Russian nations that are losing their best and their brightest. It's not the Palestinians. It's not the Israelis. It's,
all those dead people are not exactly a positive thing.
No.
And the financial drain on North Americans since the Korean War. I mean, it's like, name me one war that's actually turned out to be useful or solved a problem. Okay. I'm sorry, but the devil in the workshop here are pals to the south here. This is really pretty poor. They haven't really won a war since 1945, when they were allies with, amazingly, the same people who are now trying to figure out what to do with their old allies. I mean, this is just, it really should be number 2, not number 19, but we didn't put these in any particular order. But if you look at it from an importance perspective, the stopping of this financial support of killing people worldwide year after year in different parts of the world has to end. This really has to stop. Because it's not like we're hippies from the 60s saying, oh, we got to stop the war in Vietnam. That didn't get too many kudos after they ended that nonsense, except for 56,000 American service people getting killed and millions of people in Southeast Asia going on to the nirvana. Anyway, which brings us to 20, which is what probably we're getting right now, which is the surveillance state listening in on Bob and Tom, questioning what the hell is going on around us.
And we won't really know anything's going wrong until we start hearing back from you viewers to say, like, you were cut off at about minute 20. What happened?
That's right. Because you can still come here once a week and listen to 2 old guys saying, listen, there's some serious problems you better start paying attention to, folks.
Well, it could be maybe like Voyager. Maybe our little processors are a little crotchety and silly, and we'll have to get realigned or something.
Well, it's pretty clear that this surveillance of the thought processes of people is basically an infringement on our right to think, our right to speak, our right to express ourselves. We know that you can't walk down the street without being on someone's camera, which then gets fed into someone's server somewhere, which is all wrapped up in, we're doing this to keep you safe. Okay, well, how come crime is up if we have all these cameras then? Just a question.
That's true.
You know, if all these cameras are finding bad guys, how come the bad guys aren't being picked up and in jail? Just a question.
Well, I think that goes with point number 21, the centralization of government and who are government.
Well,
Is it
this
people that we elect, or is it people that we thought we elected, or people that are being put forward because they're in somebody's back pocket? I don't know. Is it centralization? Yes. We can't seem to do anything without having the government having a form or a tax or a
well, they
any.
manipulate the laws, whatever. The problem is that there's two big bubbles now within the confines of the Potomac River and the Rideau River, which is Ottawa and Washington, and they live in this bubble. And everything they think is okay for the rest of the folks has to be okay for the rest of the folks. That's the problem, you know, because why is it that all roads seem to lead back on all issues to those 2 points?
Yeah.
We've you know, this is not how the framers of the two countries, whether it's Confederation Canada or the Union State, this is not how this was going to be. Supposedly you know, a grouping of communities that had some commonalities that were dealt with by the central government, but the central governments now want to do everything. Like you said earlier, they're going into municipalities and telling them how to build houses. What are you talking about? You know, and then you have these spineless, weak-kneed jellyfish types that are standing around with their fingers somewhere and not challenging these megalomaniacs in the centralized government structures. You know, but anyway,
Well, we can sum that whole point number 21 up, the centralization of government in particular in Canada.
absolutely.
The city of Ottawa, and let's go down maybe around the area called Parliament Hill, is maybe what, 2 square miles, you think?
Most.
At most, maybe a little bit bigger. So I will say 2 square miles surrounded by sanity. And that is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
And
Which,
they're
of
trying
course, sorry,
to
and that insanity impacts on the regular folks who then item number 22 on our list of things to do this about, you know, is the who trust these people anymore. We don't have trust in our institutions like we used to because
no.
because it's all either gobbledygook or they're outright lying to us.
Well, and we see that, I mean, I think you had pointed it out the other day. As we are speaking, we are building 6.7 houses in Canada every day.
Well,
None
every
according,
minute, every minute.
oh, every minute. Oh,
Oh
sorry.
yeah, oh yeah, just like that. Houses are being built because we said so.
Yeah. And then the building industry is going, where?
Exactly.
The people who are trying to buy houses are going, where?
And then
Anyway,
you have this link to why are you questioning us? Because that is number 23 on our hit parade is the whole censorship industrial complex, which says we have misinformation, malinformation, disinformation. I mean, give me a break. As long as it fits their narrative, it's got to be okay. If you question it, watch your bank account. Could have a problem.
as we found out several years ago now with the Freedom Convoy. But, and then that kind of leads into point number 24,
Oh, yes.
government media tie-ups and basically the death of journalism because they've been bought off.
Oh, yeah. And you know, journalism is hard. You're hard pressed to find people who actually, in actual fact, in legacy media, there is no journalism by and large. We're all forced to kind of find the back doors through the internet to get any information that's done by independent people who probably don't make any money very much from exposing the truth. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we
So,
find that, we just before we eat dinner, you put on the 5 o'clock news, which is all local. Yeah. With a little bit of international thrown in, and then at 5:30 you come on with the national news, which has a little bit of the local news and a little bit of the international news, and then you get to the 6 o'clock news, which why we are such news junkies, I really don't know. But 5 minutes of maybe breaking news of a, bank robbery or something that's going on, and then it's all repeats of what you heard over the last hour.
And activists nonsense about what they think you should be thinking about what you just saw. In other words, if you it's all about adjusting your thought patterns to meet whatever it is that they have been prescribed to say to defend the status quo of the government, for example. And then that brings us to number 25, which basically is why they get to do all this stuff, because nobody goes to jail just for saying things that are untrue, for doing or inciting things or actions of people. There's the slander and libel laws just don't seem to be showing up in front of magistrates anymore. So it's no wonder that you don't believe in what the government tells you or what the media tells you, or because they can lie with impunity because nobody ends up having to prove that what they said was actually fact.
As we found out very, very recently with the Arrive Scam app, where one of the big major players has a doctor's note to say that he can't answer stressful questions.
Only in Canada can you do that. I'm just so stressed out. Hey, listen, we did it. We managed to touch on all 25 points in the time allotted to us this week.
Yes.
The lexicon of screw ups.
It all makes it out to our viewers.
Yes, to our viewers and our listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Let us know what you think. Hit the bell, like what you see, subscribe to us. You see the thing on the screen here, Border Poll at Rumble, YouTube, Substack, or Twitter. Let us know what you think. We're having fun, but we need your support.
That's right.
Two old guys having fun, but they need a little bit of help.
Very true.
Yes. Buy us a beer. No, it's not buy us a beer. What is it? Buy us a coffee.
Coffee, yes.
I'm thinking it's time for a beer this afternoon.
You're a little closer to that than I am.
Indeed. Well, that was good fun, Bob. I hope everybody enjoyed that. And like I said, like we said, let us know what you think.
If you've got any ideas for topics.
Yeah. And we promised, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said we can't continually make this stuff up. Surely some of our listeners out there must know something good.
Well, wait a minute. What if our next show is we make stuff up?
They wouldn't believe us. I think that goes back to about point.
All right. Well, listen, you have a good week.
And you too.
We'll see you back here on Sunday on the flip side. Yes, yeah. All right. Take care, Bob.
Take care.